Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of In the Heart of the Vault. Thanks for joining me. Today's going to be a little bit different. We've had a few questions come in over time, or people sharing their stories on email, etc., which is amazing. So thanks to each and every one of you. I love this community that's evolving, and for you, each individual's reaching out and asking questions or just saying how much In the Heart of the Vault has helped you so far. So keep doing that, please. We love getting that feedback. It just makes us keep, spurring on and creating new episodes for you each week. So today, in order to honour that, I thought a good way to do that would be actually to do a Q&A. I did reach out on Instagram and Facebook and just made some suggestions if people wanted to reach out to me and send their questions in. If your question doesn't get read out today and you want it to for future episodes, we will always do Q&As. They will come up. So without further ado, let's dive in. So the first one from Emma. So Emma's question was, it's been over a year since I lost my partner and I still cry almost every day. Is that normal? Shouldn't I be past this by now? Firstly, Emma, thanks for reaching out, and I am so incredibly sorry for your loss. Great question. Obviously, as a bit of a disclaimer, I am certainly no practitioner or, a qualified therapist, doctor, or any medical advisor. I can only give my opinion and advice basically based on where I'm at and my experiences, and also just to maybe incorporate some advice that's come from other guests that we've had on the podcast. So a year in, gosh, Emma, I can honestly say, hand on heart, for that first year, it was all a bit, I was just completely numb. I do remember a lot of the year, but in a sense I don't. It was a case of just getting through each day. Some days were brighter than others, but certainly in that first few months, but that first 12 months not crying. Hey, I'm 19 months, 20 months nearly into this grief journey, and some days, I don't cry, and then some days I literally cry at every ridiculous thing that wouldn't normally make me cry. And I know it's because of what's going on, and it might be a reminder of what's happened, or me missing him, or it might be because the kids are crying. I don't know your situation, Emma, if you've got children or family around you, and obviously picking on up their experience of it all and their grief and processing that as well. But don't put any pressure on yourself. Like, every day can look differently, and just give yourself a little bit of grace. I find when I accepted that every day can look different, and sometimes that can be every hour, I can get up in the morning and be in a fairly good headspace, and the kids are good, and we're going about our day, and it can literally have a bit of a spin on its head and change. So just embrace that a little bit. Every day is going to be new. There's going to be new experiences. There's going to be days of 30 steps forward, 20 steps back, 20 steps forward, 50 steps back. It's going to happen. So don't be so hard on yourself. Cry. And if you want to cry, it's amazing that you are crying, because some people suppress that. So cry whenever. Don't apologize for crying, whether that's quietly when you're on your own, in the shower, in front of work colleagues, with your friends, around family, on your own. Just let that all out. Sending lots of love. Jay, people keep telling me I'm strong, but inside I feel numb. Is there something wrong with me? Obviously, there's stuff going on for you, and I'm not sure. There wasn't too much detail to that question, so I'm assuming it's grief, loss, trauma, around that. Strong's a funny word, isn't it, in a lot of sense, because, and I'm really mindful when I tell somebody that they're being so strong. Let me explain that a little bit for you. If you're going through something that's really heavy at the moment, or you have been, let's just say for this, you're going through something right now, Jay, then the fact that you're getting up in the morning, and I assume that you're getting tasks done, and it might not be a lot, but you're doing things, that's strength in itself. I know, from personal experience that until you're walking in those shoes, people don't understand. But I just think the word strong is used loosely, because what other choice have you got? So if you're bottling all that or suppressing, it sounds like there's some kind of confliction with yourself, because people telling you you're strong, but you feel like you're holding it all in or suppressing that. Well, that's, we only know ourselves, don't we? You can put on a bit of a facade and tell people what they want to hear. And sometimes your own strength, like if you actually just look within and just started doing, daily things that you wouldn't normally do or you wouldn't feel like doing, it can just be one little micro change a day, can make all the difference. Like 1 minute each day of something that you wouldn't normally do, you'd like to do, you're dreading to do, but it will help. These are all the little changes that you can do each day that no one else has to know about, but just yourself. If people are saying to you that they feel that you're so strong, I mean, bless them. But maybe if you're not feeling so much like that, then, and you do feel comfortable in opening up and talking to a friend, sometimes it might even be better talking to someone who you don't necessarily have, you're not super close to. And then the emotion is not attached from their end. I think we all have those days where you feel more comfortable talking to someone on your outer circle than your inner, for a variance of reasons. So maybe it's time to do that, Jay. Hope that helped. Appreciate your question, and just keep tuning into In the Heart, the Vault. So thank you. So this one's from Sophie. I lost someone suddenly and I never got to say goodbye. How do I find peace with that? I can relate to that. Having lost hubby in a motorcycle accident. But again, everyone's experience is very, very different. So it's not one size fits all, which we talk about a lot on this podcast. I think, obviously, what comes with that is guilt. That question kind of comes with some guilt, what I read from that, because you wasn't able to say goodbye. You hear it so often, unfortunately, that, the last word I said to them, we had an argument and then they were in an accident, or, if only I knew, I would have never said that. If only I knew, I would have said I love you before they left the home. And there's all different forms of that. And you can really, really go deep on that and in quite a dark place if you consistently or continuously focus on that, the ifs. Firstly, what happened to your loved one, your friend or your family member, with them passing away suddenly. What happened, and you can't change that. And for whatever reason, these things do happen. but you not saying goodbye. I'm very spiritual, that everyone knows who listens to this podcast. And so I don't feel like it's a final goodbye. I do feel like they're around you all the time. So in the physical aspect, not saying goodbye, that may be closure for your part, which makes sense. But don't be so hard on yourself. Like, try, and I don't know how long ago this happened for you, so it might even be early days, and you do feel really numb anyway, and these crazy things play out in our minds. If that is happening to you, you're not on your own, because honestly, and the crazy dreams and the thoughts that come into your mind, it is normal. It's part of the process. But if you're still and you just stop and think, and if you enjoy journaling, I don't. I wish I did. My daughter does, but I don't. I do write things down. I'm more inclined to meditate and think things through and really process things in my mind. I might take notes, but I definitely don't journal. So journaling might be something that you want to do, that feels right for you. But focus on I know as cliche as it sounds, but the little moments, the beautiful, the beautiful times that you did have together. Guilt, if you're feeling guilty about not saying goodbye, is actually the lowest form, vibration, and it can just downward spiral and take some places that aren't going to help you. And I say to my kids, is it going to help you or is it going to hurt you? And if it's going to hurt you, avoid it. Don't do it. If it's going to help you, and in this case, thinking of those beautiful memories and journaling, and look all around you. Look around you for signs, because they're definitely there if you're open to that. So sending you loads of love. Once again, I'm sorry that you're going through this, and we appreciate your question, because by asking these questions, in turn, it does help other listeners as well. So thank you. Michael, I've been avoiding my grief because I'm the one holding everyone else together. What happens if I fall apart? Oh, Michael, that's such a good question. Thank you for being so transparent and open and sending in that question. Yes, that's a big one. Firstly, I'm so sorry that you're going through a big loss, and the grief that you're going through at the moment. I would say with that, focus on, like, you're saying so selfless, and it's incredible. You're going through so much yourself, but you're actually thinking about others. I would say, without knowing the family dynamics and the people around you, and I understand that, because that's kind of what I'm like as well, like worrying about everyone else. And I have 2 kids, so I was very mindful of those. But what I decided I was going to do from the get-go, and I don't know how, amongst all the trauma and everything else that goes through losing somebody, I made a decision that I wasn't going to suppress any emotions whatsoever. I wanted my kids to go through every emotion, so it would have been ludicrous or crazy for me to think that by me hiding mine, I was actually helping them, because it wouldn't be. It's really powerful, and it's super important to display your emotions, especially if you have younger kids. And also, if you don't have kids and you've got family around you, by you exposing, for a better word, your emotions, it's almost giving them permission to do so too. And people don't know what they don't know. So if you're suppressing it, but at some point, if you suppress your emotions, it's going to come out in other ways. And the bubble will burst. You can't possibly suppress all that and for it not to come out in other ways. You know, your health will be affected, your mental health will be affected. Like it's just not healthy for so many reasons. With children, if you do have children, whether they're young or adult children, we almost have to go first. Or so, I don't shy away. I always say to the kids, don't ever apologize for crying. It's an emotion and it needs to come out. It's coming up for a reason. So don't push that back down. Same with, anger. Same with humor. There's many situations where, they say if you don't laugh, you'll cry. As long as you're using all that in positive ways. And by positive, I mean moving forward. You have to look after you in order to look after everyone else. And the only way to do that is to wade through it. And I say wade through it because some days are heavier than others. And yes, as a mom myself, sometimes, I do put my feelings on a back burner a little bit in order to put the kids first. That's just what us moms do. But I don't ignore them. I might just park them for a little while, but I certainly don't ignore them. I do the work. I talk to a therapist. I do the podcast. But definitely don't suppress your feelings. Don't push it down thinking, it's heroic to help others and you've just got to crack on, which if you've listened to a previous episode, I've talked about that. There's a dangerous element to that. So please don't do that. Hopefully that helps. And we appreciate your message coming in. So thank you. This is a really good question, Talia. I feel guilty that life is moving on, that I can laugh again. Does that mean I'm forgetting them? Such a great question. And thank you for your question, Talia. Again, it's that guilt, isn't it? That just pops up for us. And there's a variance of reasons for that because they're not here, but you're still, you're enjoying yourself and you are laughing, like you said. And, even in the early days, when people lose someone they love, and certainly, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but, certainly for me and the kids, like there was laughter, certainly not in that first few days, but we had a house full of guests and my good friends were here. There was moments, the little bits of laughter when you're sharing memories of that loved one and, really funny times. And of course, you're going to laugh about it. You might still be a little bit numb, of course, and not feeling it like you would, you may do down the track. But, laughter's medicine, isn't it? It's good. Me and the kids laugh. Me and my friends laugh. Yes, I do. I wouldn't say I feel guilty because I know, and the same with you or any of our listeners, your loved ones would want to see you laugh and be happy and they wouldn't want to see you sad. And that's, again, we've got to be careful with that because that's all good and well, but it's when your heart's smashed in a million pieces, it's easier said than done, right? But if there are moments there that you're laughing, and the fact that you said, Talia, that, you're moving on, it doesn't mean that you're forgetting them and the memory. but it's important to keep their memory alive. And what can you do? You can't sit in a corner and rock in a corner for the rest of your days. Life is so precious, and as horrendous as it is losing someone so close to you, and it's just horrific in so many ways, life does go on, and it makes us realize how precious life actually is. So if there are moments of laughter, Talia, it doesn't take the grief away. What's happening is you've just got used to that grief being there, and it's almost like you've got this tight belt on of grief, because that's what it feels like. You can't breathe. But over time, if you get up that day and you put a belt on that's so tight you can barely breathe, and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to get home, or a bra or something, like I can't wait to get home and get this thing off. But over the day, somehow your body's just adjusted to it. You got used to it, and your brain kind of shuts off from that part until you do get home, you take it off, but your body just gets used to it. And grief is kind of the same. A silly analogy, I know, but bear with me here, guys. It is kind of like that. It never goes away. And some days it hurts more than others. Some moments it hurts more than others. Some hours, and some you just feel really shit and really sad. You just have to lean into those. And that's the same with you, Talia. When laughter is there, just lean into it. Don't overthink it. It's a natural thing. It doesn't mean that you've forgotten them. It does not mean that in any shape or form. It just means that you are laughing in that moment and you're enjoying yourself in that moment, and you should be. Next question. I have to keep putting my glasses on because I'm blind as a bat without them. Oh, okay. Lucas, how do you deal with anniversaries, birthdays, or reminders that hit you out of nowhere? I've had this conversation with one of my beautiful close friends. Caroline lost Lydia, and when it comes to the month and the day of Lydia passing, she would say it hits her subconsciously before it hits her. Like, her subconscious already recognizes that before her conscious mind does, meaning it can get close to that day, like 2 or 3 weeks. Obviously Caroline knows it's coming every year, every day she thinks of Lydia, of course, and every year that anniversary comes around. But it's kind of, she will go, oh my God, why am I feeling like this? And then she'll go, oh, it's because we're 2 weeks out or a week out from Lydia's passing. So I think when you said, and the reason why I'm addressing that is because you said they come out from nowhere. I'm assuming you mean, Lucas, that, you're going about, you're kind of getting on with your life as best you can. And then all of a sudden this, anniversary hits you and you're like, why am I feeling like this? And then you remember. I'm assuming you mean that. So that gives you an example with Caroline's story. So there's a lot of that goes on. Obviously, from my speaking, I've lost grandparents, and I do have that as well, where I birthdays and all different days as a family that we remembered and things like that, anniversaries and things come up for me. But as far as my husband and how we remember what we actually do, it's still early days for us, but we actually planted a tree, a beautiful farm, where we did the celebration of life. And so the kids and I go and sit at the tree, and his favorite sweet treat was donuts. And so we buy lots of beautiful donuts and we go and sit by the tree with the dog, and we just chat and play music and eat donuts and do all that. And of course that's fairly new and raw for us, so there's been a few occasions that we've done that. So yeah, just doing something, something that was what you guys used to love to do, doing something, and it doesn't have to be super expensive or anything major. It can be anything. It can be going to the beach, going to a favorite park that you used to go. And if you've got a young family, ask the kids what they would like to do. That's super important as well, to get them involved. So yeah, I hope that helps. Thanks for your question again, Lucas. Oh, Renee. Everyone keeps telling me to stay positive or find the silver lining. Ooh, that actually stung, that. I'm not going to lie. I know they mean well, but it makes me feel worse. How do I cope with that kind of pressure? Okay, again, because there's not much context to the questions, I'm assuming it is around, I know our podcast, we talk about some pretty major stories, traumatic events and things like that. So it's not necessarily loss or grief. Yeah, when I read that question, I said, stay positive, it's so okay, cured. That's how I see it. There's not much depth to it. It's like, again, it's that be strong. It's like, well, I'm actually getting up each day, I'm running the household, I'm taking the kids to school, whatever you're doing, I'm going to work and putting on a facade, a brave face, and I'm really feeling like heartbroken. I'm absolutely dragging my feet. I'm, beside myself. I go to bed crying every night. I'm, financially broke, lost the company. I don't know where to go from here. And then someone goes, stay positive, or there's a silver lining. Those aren't the words that you need to hear when you're not feeling it. So I would, first and foremost, let's just say, obviously these friends or your family circle, or they're just, sometimes they don't know what to say either. And so they say these things just trying to help or thinking the help. Their intention is good, or you would hope their intention is good. But it can just come across quite, what's the word? Not very much depth. And, there's an element of, it wouldn't matter what they said. If you're not open to that or listening to that, they could say absolutely anything and you wouldn't be feeling it anyway. You may be at a point where you are quite closed off because you are going through so much, which is totally understandable. There's a kind of, like, for me personally, I love my own company. Like, I genuinely love my own company. I don't necessarily always get that anyway because I'm with my kids 24/7, but I love being around them too. So it's the three of us, the three musketeers, 99.9% of the time. But I'm loving that. I'm loving that for me. And I'm able to process more when I'm on my own and work through things more. And sometimes having external advice might not be always what you're seeking or after. So if you've got a circle around you, you've got those people around you, be open with them as well. They don't know what they don't know. So they're just using words to try and let you know that they're there for you. Maybe verbalize, don't be afraid of saying, you don't need to tell me to stay positive. I'm doing all that, but deliver that nicely because they are trying to help you. And also maybe, to just tighten your circle a little bit. We've got social media now. If you're on social media, I mean, most people are, and everyone loves a comment, everyone loves to say something. And sometimes that's not always the best, and it's not always the right message, and they're not with you 24/7. So they don't know what your life looks like. They don't know what you're doing each day to stay positive. So just be mindful of that. just be mindful of that. And, you know, again, if you have good connections with, you know, a good network of friends and family, don't be afraid of telling them and saying, look, I'm actually not feeling that positive right now. And that's okay as well. We put so much emphasis on that. And I'm speaking from experience because I do that. I'm so hard on myself about, you know, stay strong, glass half full, like all of that. I am all of those things. And I'm sure you're all of those things. And people who know you, who really know you, know that. Yeah, just take those words loosely and just don't focus too much on that. Just really focus on you. Put the spotlight on you and just, I mean, you know, again, from my experience, if someone said to me, oh, silver lining, well, there ain't no freaking silver lining to this. Lost my husband, kids lost their dad. Where's the silver lining in that? So, you know, and that would be the same, you know, talking to my guests or things like that is I don't know your situation. So sometimes there isn't a silver lining, you know, whatever the situation. So don't be afraid of addressing that and saying that. That's your boundaries as well. You're allowed to have that. If it's one particular person who says that to you all the time, then address that so that never comes up again. Again, delivering that nicely and be kind and respectful. But if it's bothering you that much, then distance yourself from that. Or again, I don't know your situation, but I certainly, in my situation with grief and trauma, I wouldn't be attaching silver lining to it to anyone. So yeah, sending lots of love and thanks for your question. Hopefully that helped a little bit. I'm loving the guys sending messages in, by the way. I don't want to sound so, you know, how unusual, because I have had quite a few questions from guys, but I'm loving it. There's, you know, it's just awesome. Love it. In touch with your emotions, want to seek help and advice, albeit I'm no practitioner, as we know, or therapist, but yeah, I love it. So thanks, Daniel. After the funeral, everyone disappeared. I feel like people expect me to be okay now, but I'm not. How do I deal with the loneliness? So this is actually a common theme, isn't it? More common than we like to think, but it's true. You know, you're, again, not knowing your situation, but, you know, for most, you lose someone, everything, like the house is like a subway station, people coming and going, meals being left. You hope, I hope my audience have experienced that, who've gone through some loss. But, you know, friends are coming in, people are reaching out, messages, phone calls, and even the phone calls just, you know, not just, but phone calls with, depending how that happened, you know, what's around that, and, you know, the medical practitioner, like just everything around it, and then dealing with having to organise the funeral, however that looks for you. But again, it's kind of another distraction, and people want to help, and you're distracted because you're kind of organising all that, and whatever time frame that is. But let's just, for argument's sake, say it was a couple of weeks, which devastates me because it should be a lot longer than that. But that's another story for another day. So say a couple of weeks, it's been go, flowers arriving, food arriving, phone calls, messages, text messages, you know, all of that. And then you have the funeral, and like you said, then everyone kind of goes back to the normal lives, which is totally understandable. You know, to us, you know, to you, Daniel, your world had stopped. Like, and I remember thinking, like, how crazy. Me and, you know, the kids the next morning, people were still going to work. You're like, our lives have been flipped on its head. And then, you know, like you said, you go through the funeral and then nothing, the occasional message or phone call and check up and things like that. I can only say with that is it is that people get on with their lives, and then there's a kind of, you know, a miscommunication of what that expectation is. Do you know, did people contact you and you said, I just want to be on my own for a while to process this? Or was there never that contact? Did everything just stop? And also people feel like they're intruding. It depends on those relationships, you know, that you need time to grieve. And so, or they assume that other people, because in the beginning there was so many people around you, they assume because they've kind of backed off a little bit, one would hope that they did it because they felt that you needed time. They've assumed that everyone else is still there. And sometimes everyone assumes the same. So then there's nothing. And yet most people I've spoken to, like good friends of mine and family who've had big losses, they said it's the time after the celebration of life or the funeral that they actually need people the most. I had, you know, a couple of my closest friends who'd been up during the, you know, in the first couple of weeks, they'd come up, flown interstate and things and stayed. And then they actually said, would you prefer we be there at the celebration of life or fly up again and spend time with you afterwards? And we agreed the time after was better, and it actually was, for a variance of reasons. So sometimes the communication is not there either. I was blessed that I had that communication, you know, certainly afterwards, you know, a few weeks later, that there was less activity, but I welcomed that. I'm not sure I necessarily communicated that with everyone. I certainly came off the phone. I still, to this day, unless it's business, and, you know, making appointments and things and involves the kids, I will avoid the phone as in phone call, because in the early days there was so many phone calls that I'm still quite traumatized about to this day. So yeah, I think it's just having that communication and making that clear, and it can be quite a grey area. If you've got close friends, even if it's just one friend, just have that conversation, arrange to go and have a coffee, invite them over if you don't really want to go anywhere, and just say, can you just come over? Let's just hang out and watch a movie. Or, you know, I just want to have a conversation with you. I just want to offload a little bit, but I don't necessarily want any advice. It's not advice that you're seeking necessarily, because, you know, what advice can they give you really when you're going through so much grief and turmoil and heartbreak? Sometimes you just want someone to just sit with you in that mess, just knowing that they're there. So if you do have, you know, one or two friends that can do that, just reach out. You'll be surprised, you know, if you're open to that. And at the same time, I think sometimes, I don't know, I mean, you know, I've got friends and acquaintances and, you know, people I know who just love to be surrounded by people. They can't imagine, they don't want to be on their own, you know, when they're going through so much. Like, months after, weeks and weeks and months after, and that's okay. Everyone's different. What I would say about that though is that a distraction, a bit of noise to stop yourself having to think about it, and then there becomes a dangerous ground of avoidance. So sometimes what I'm saying is embrace that silence too, because you're really trying to process. I still, 20 months on, still expect to see him walk through the door. I still go to bed at night and think, oh my God, he's actually not going to be here again in the physical sense. And my heart just drops. So there's can be a lot of good that can come from that silent time as well. So hope that helped. Again, thank you for your question. That's such a great question. And so yeah, sending lots of love. So one final question. Ooh, Amy, I'm afraid to fully grieve because I'm scared of what I'll find if I really go there. Is it possible to heal without completely falling apart? Right. That is such a big loaded question, Amy. Okay, I'm afraid to grieve. The first thing, again, not knowing the situation, the first thing that I would acknowledge is I'm so sorry that you're actually going through this. Being afraid to grieve, to me, is being afraid to grieve because you're scared that you will completely fall apart, but it's you're afraid of the unknown because you don't know. No one knows. You don't know how you're going to react and how you're going to grieve. But the dangerous part of that, which I've said in previous answers, I would be actually more scared of not grieving and holding on to that and bottling that up. That is not good. That's not going to end well. It'll come up in different situations. Like you know, as cliche as it sounds, what comes with love is grief. And it's part of the process. You can't, I couldn't imagine bottling up the emotions. I would only imagine that would come out as anger and rage and just not good at all and make you unwell. I will say is don't be afraid of it, because you're being afraid of the unknown, and that's no one knows what that is. We don't know what tomorrow is going to look like. So that may be talking to somebody externally, like talking to a therapist who has no emotional attachment and is just there for you to, vent and open up and, hopefully give you the tools to help you move forward and to help you grieve. And also just grieving in a safe place, whether that's home for you. It might be just to get away for a few days, just on your own, where you can just journal and just think about things, and being scared of what might come up. Grief is a crazy, crazy thing. And I will be the first to say, going through this process, so many things have come up, not just about the event, not just about losing Glenn, but things going back to when I was younger and my childhood, and crazy thoughts, and my dreams are so vivid, and it's like these lessons that are coming through. It's insane. And I've had this conversation with a few in particular guests who've said they've gone through this similar kind of thing. It's not, everyone's different. Everyone is so different. And I don't think grief is like getting through grief and working through grief is like you go, okay, 2 weeks, or I'll do this for 6 months and then I'm good. It's ongoing. Like I would expect this will never stop, but that I don't want to sound heavy and completely doom and gloom. It just gets, you can adapt to it better. But as far as the healing concept, I'm learning more about myself now than I've ever learned my entire life. And I've had some pretty major events happen throughout my life. And hand on heart, it's been probably because I've been the stillest. Like I've actually slowed down and stopped. I had to, because the way, I've always run my life, just been busy and just, on the go and spinning so many plates and, looking after the kids. And then Charlie, my, youngest, has been really unwell for years and years. All this stuff going on, but I've been so busy and crazy where I've just given myself time to just completely slow down. I'm still, got a million things on, but not as much. And I just allow those still times. And sometimes, it's freaking heavy and it's heartbreaking and there's so much emotion that comes out and it just shows up in all different ways. But give yourself some grace for that. Don't suppress it. I don't know. I don't think you can heal completely if you don't grieve. I don't actually think it's even possible. No, to wrap that question up, I don't think it is. And you deserve to heal, and heal in the sense of, like, we see it so many times now. Healing's not just going out drinking green juice and going to yoga every week. Wouldn't it be great if that's all it was? It's not that. It's different things that come up and really getting to work on yourself, but also understanding this is part of your story now. This is one of the chapters in your book, unfortunately. And I'm so sorry that you're going through this, but don't suppress it. Don't suppress what's going on there and think that you can bypass that. It's almost like you're just trying to shove that in a closet, lock it up, and then bypass it. That closet will burst open and come and tap you, excuse the French, but bite you on the arse fair and square in the future. So yeah, just give yourself grace and deal with that day by day, just little bite sizes. But yeah, it needs to be done. There's no avoiding that. So sending lots of love. We're going to wrap that up now, but thank you everyone. Like, great questions. Hopefully that helped a little bit. And again, I can only give you my take on my experience. That doesn't mean it's gospel. It doesn't mean it's right necessarily. It might just be that some part of that you'll take a bit away. And that's, again, the idea of In the Heart of the Vault. There's incredible guests that we have on each week. And there might just be little snippets that you can take from that. And it might not be because you're going through something. It might be someone close to you who is. And that might just be, just to take a snippet from that, you saying to someone, stay positive or be strong. You might actually think about that again and think, well, actually, I'm not going to say that. That can come across quite condescending. Or, just different elements. So we can all learn from it. I have these incredible guests on each week and I'm learning constantly. And we can all do that from each other if we actually just are open to it, open to change, open to listening, and coming from the heart. So with that, sending much love as always, and thanks for tuning into this episode of In the Heart, the Vault. If you can do me a big favor, if you haven't already, subscribe, go into Spotify and subscribe. You can also subscribe on In the Heart, the Vault on YouTube, and that way I can bring more and more episodes to you.